Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Who says this?
And a good afternoon to you. Welcome on in to Cards Hub 365 here on Sports Hub STL alongside Mike Claiborne of the Cardinals Radio Network and our Cardinal insider, Brenden Schaeffer. I am Joe Roderick. And once again, today, it's more Cardinal talk like it will be 365 days a year right here on Sports Hub STL as we are coming to you live from Jupiter in support or in partnership with Gray Bar here. Claibs, Brenden, day 2 of full team workouts, and I guess no news is good news, really. No big surprises or anything like that. No arm tweaks, nothing of the sort today for the Cardinals. No drama at all either, which cannot be said over on the other side of the state, Claims, because the Boston Red Sox, they are having third base problems. They are having third base drama over there.
You know, I heard Buck Showalter make a great point yesterday. Sometimes things can get lost in translation. And when you're talking to someone from a different country in the language, certain terms may be misplaced and you're at the mercy of a translator. But, it's one of those situations where we're searching for stories right now. And I have to think that somewhere along the way that this discussion had to take place before it was announced yesterday. And maybe there was something lost along the way and maybe it was presented to him differently. And I know that Alex Cora mentioned the fact that, well, that's what Chaim Bloom told him. And maybe he was assuming that was the case. So my question is, did the Red Sox talk to him before it was made public?
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with what's going on over the weekend with the signing of Alec Bregman, the Rafael Devers situation at third base, Bregman's a Gold Glove third baseman. Rafael Devers has historically led the MLB or the American League, at least in errors over at third base. And Devers has said, I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, he doesn't want to play first base. He doesn't want to DH. He says, I'm a third baseman. And that's what the Red Sox told me when I re-upped here. And Cora made the comment, well, Chaim is in St. Louis now. And that obviously is not going well. And then today I saw their first baseman, Tristan Casas, which there were some rumors that they were trying to move on from him in the offseason, even though he's only 25 years old. They asked him, I guess the media asked him for his thoughts, and he said, yeah, Devers should play third. I should play first. Bregman should play second. And they said, what about these young prospects that the Red Sox have on the rise? He said, no, I don't think they should make the opening day roster. So there's a few things going over in Fort Myers.
So I didn't hear it. I didn't hear the interview. So I'm wondering, is this something that was quoted, or do we have this verbally where he actually said it? And I'd be interested to see, was he using a translator? I'd be interested to see, did they ask him that question directly compared to, us, kind of shortening the answer?
Right.
Because again, I think a lot of times we're searching for a story, and one misplaced word can really, change a whole paragraph as far as how things unfold. So, and I don't know this young man. And, maybe he's a guy who's outspoken. And as you mentioned, Brenden, they're looking to move on from him. And maybe that's one of the reasons why. But I'd like to hear or see it in the whole thing before I jump into saying, this guy's a problem.
Yeah, you're right. And it's good to always have the context. And Chris Cotillo is the Red Sox beat writer for Mass Live that I saw tweeted out. And he's even said, when I get back to the press box, I will transcribe the full quote. So that's something to keep an eye out for, to have the full context of that situation. But I think to your point, Joe, it's one of those deals where the Cardinals have it was a big story when he first got here. I feel like it's more of a non-story now that he's getting into the swing of things. He's out there guiding a young player like Thomas Sajaci. Ollie Marmol has said, we're very intentional with the staff and how we put these groups together when it comes to infield practice and batting groups and things of that nature. And if you've been out on the backfields the last couple of days, you have seen Nolan Arenado. I would describe it as kind of taking Sajaci under his wing and having those back and forth conversations that, as Marmol has said, can be so valuable for those young players to glean the wisdom and the experience from the older guys. So is that a fair way to put that, Claibs, where the Red Sox are having their issues and maybe, like you said, some things are kind of getting lost there and the full context is important. But I think the no drama aspect of this is Arenado has showed up and he said, hey, I'm a Cardinal until I'm told otherwise, and I'm going to pour into my teammates while I'm here. Seems to be the way he's taken this.
Well, and I think that kind of goes back to what is a Cardinal. I mean, you've been around and you've been to a number of these. We don't have guys we've never had guys, as long as I've been around, I could probably name on one hand the guys were like, really? Because I think character comes into play as well, and just their whole background. I think the last guy who was maybe made some people uncomfortable because of how he carried himself may have been a Marcell Ozuna.
Mm-hmm.
And Ozuna just didn't know any better. Okay, I mean, he wasn't a bad guy, but that was something. This was a different environment for him with regard to how you did things in the clubhouse. So, when you draft a player and you sign a player, I really feel like you better do your homework. You better find out what he's all about. And I'm of the belief one of the things that this game is starting to suffer from, we don't have enough eyeball scouts watching players, whether it's high school or college or whether in the Caribbean, because you can watch a guy on video and you can watch him, all day long. And 90% of the time, they're going to show you all the good things that he does. But I want to see what he's like when he goes 0 for 4, or he's 1 for his last 9 and he's got 5 punch outs. What is his character like? And you can't do that by watching it on video. You have to have somebody watching his heartbeat, because all the measurables that we see, and there's a measurable for everything, but they haven't figured out one for your heart. And if you don't have the ability to judge that, I think you're really barking up a tree in what you're talking about with some players that maybe had they peeled off the next layer, they would have found out maybe he wasn't the guy that we want to lead our ball club.
Your comments are welcome in the chat as Trevor chimes in a -9 defensive run saved for Devers and still wanting to play third base.
You thought he was raised a white flag? Hey, you know what? Maybe it's a pride thing though too.
Oh yeah.
I think that there's some guys who, they'll go down with their last breath. And when you're told you're not good enough to play this position, and we're paying you more money than anybody, that maybe is a pride thing that comes into play.
What do you think that says about Wilson Contreras then? That he's putting pride aside he's taken pride in being a very respectable catcher defensively throughout his career. And he's saying, I want to be here and I'm going to learn a new position. He was out there today. I mean, even Alec Burleson's over there has more experience than Wilson at first. And so he kind of was giving him some tips, and Ollie Marmol giving him some tips of, hey, here's how we do these kind of plays. Like, that's all new to Wilson Contreras. What does that say about his personality?
Let's go back the year before when they wanted to put him in left field.
Yeah.
So maybe he learned from that experience, and maybe being on the infield maybe was the answer compared to sticking him out in left field somewhere he never played before. Yeah. Because he came up as a third baseman, so maybe he's more comfortable on the infield. But for him to embrace it at this point, because he could have easily said, "Nah, not me," or he could have pushed back. But maybe the way they presented the opportunity to him as well had a lot to do with it, which is why I go back to the Red Sox, and you wonder, how did they present this to Devers with regard to the change? And if they sat him down and said, hey, listen, we have a shot at Bregman, we want to try and do some things differently, maybe he would have had a different response than basically saying, you're going to move because we have Bregman. So I just think it's all about the presentation. And again, I wasn't in the room for that. I wasn't in the room when Chaim Bloom allegedly told him he was the third baseman for life. I would have thought I'd be the third baseman for life too if they were paying me $300 million.
And yeah, that's another thing with the Chaim Bloom comments yesterday from Alex Cora that ties back into the Cardinals organization too. He's kind of catching strays a little bit from.
Yeah, but you know what? That's water under the bridge. You know what?
I don't think it's something that's going to bother him.
It shouldn't bother anybody. Really, it's a non-story to me, because it's like being the president of the United States. When you move into the White House, everything that's gone on, you blame the other guy. And that's, they're always, because, stuff runs downhill. And so it's easy to put the blame on someone else. I mean, that's a cop-out in my opinion. But having said that, again, I go back to this. If I'm paying the guy that kind of money, then, yeah, man, this is your job. I'm not paying you to be a utility guy. And they had accepted the fact that either he's going to be who he is as a average to perhaps below average third baseman. And I think they could accept the fact if he just became an average guy, they would have said, okay, because he can swing the bat well enough that we can forget about him playing third base. And, when you think about Fenway Park, I mean, most things are going to be a double down left field line anyway. So
I think he's one of the more underrated bats in baseball because you look at his numbers every year, and he's a hitter that's
he's
worth
always
that kind of money.
Remember when he came into St. Louis last year, he put on a hitting clinic in St. Louis, and he was struggling before he got here. He was healthy when he left, though.
It's interesting, though, because they end up getting Bregman, and they give him a pretty healthy contract. The Arenado rumors were there that they were a team that might end up being interested in him. So you would think, like you said, that at some point in this offseason, if they had plans to try to pursue something like this, they had some time to be able to talk things over with Devers so that by the time they got to spring, you wouldn't maybe have the situation.
I agree.
You could say what you will, but when Arenado and Mo came out earlier this week and talked on the same morning, they had the playbook. I mean, everybody was on the same page by then.
And that's what I was going to bring up, too, with how the Cardinals have handled this. And there has been so much talk recently about getting back to the Cardinal way, or if the Cardinal way is a thing of the past with some of the new people, the new regimes that have come in and is coming in. And that was something, you saw Nolan Arenado come in. You saw everybody on the same page in lockstep with it. You saw, the hug with Mo, the hug with Ali.
Right.
And every time a microphone is in front of them, everybody is saying the right thing, and there is no drama.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I don't expect anything less. No. This is a professional organization. Right. The players are, the front office is.
And for
we don't have drama like that.
And for everybody that wants to sit here and bitch and moan about a team not making the playoffs the last 2 years and underperforming, you are still fans of an organization that does not have to deal with things that you see throughout other sports organizations, throughout all major sports.
And if they do, they handle it internally.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. I'm sure there's somebody within the organization that they've had, and they maybe said, you know what, this may not work. And they find a way to move them. And you never know, 10 years from now when there's a reunion of some sort, and you remember when we had to get rid of this guy, for this reason, and there's been a couple situations like that.
Naturally.
That they had to move a guy, and most people would never know that story on why they had to move a guy, and that's how you do business in this league.
And Joe chimes in, and I saw Rock, if you could throw that back up there. Yeah, Jared Carabas yesterday saying that he heard from within the organization that if the Cardinals did trade for Arenado, that Devers would have moved to DH without any issue, but now it's a problem.
Which is weird because, and look, I think Arenado's a great player. Bregman has an obvious track record. They end up giving him on an average annual value even more than what Arenado's contract would have been. With regard to Bregman, I think it's like $40 million, but there's opt-outs and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. But I don't know what the connection there would be for Devers to say, oh, sure, I'd do it for Arenado, but not for Bregman. I don't like we've said, context is king, and we don't really have it in this situation, so not going to go overboard with speculating,
and,
but it's interesting.
Like I was saying earlier, if we weren't in the beginning stages of spring training, I don't really think this story would have the legs that it does. But what else are we going to talk about? Well, he really looked good in BP today. That catch they would throw today, man, I never seen such a crisp throw.
Well,
I mean,
Claibs,
that's all we have.
Nothing has happened, and you're like, we gotta talk about something.
And we're going to go through another phase. Joe and I were talking about this earlier. I look at spring training in 3 phases. The acclimation, the process of trying to get better, and then getting ready for the season. And I'm anxious to see that final stage because I've always kind of thought sometimes when we come out of the gate, we're not really as ready as we need to be because, you want to rest guys and you want to do this and take a last look. And I was intrigued by what Nolan Arenado said Sunday. I want to play more. I want to be on the field more this year in spring training. Normally, they try and hold them back.
Right.
I will say this. Normally, we used to have a saying, it's 5 and fly. Veterans can leave after the 5th inning.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting because we don't have that many veterans to, hey, you should be sitting here until the bitter end, okay? We don't have that many guys.
Who are those guys that are on that line?
Arenado might be the one guy that's excused, but everybody, no, we're going to all sit here and do kumbaya, whatever, but we all need to be watching the game. And the same thing would apply to the bullpen, which I think is a good thing. And, some people would say, well, it could be mentally taxing. Well, guess what? We're about to play 162 of these, and everybody's on audition as far as I'm concerned.
That's one that I honestly don't know what the answer is going to be, because in past years you would see the guys that are walking out. You go, well, yeah,
it was like a goal rush. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like a land rush when they would leave after the fifth inning. I mean, there were more guys leaving than were in the dugout.
That spring training ball, as I've seen it, the number of years I've been here. But I'll be curious, kind of the way that I'm sure there will still be some of that going on. But like you said, you look at some of the different players that there's not that cachet of as many Goldie type of guys in the room.
And now, in fairness, when some of those guys leave, they may go get a workout in, or they may ride the bike, they may do something else, or they may want to go in the back cage and hit some more. So it's not like they're all running to the golf course or to the bar or anything like that. Most of these guys have something else to do.
They love that cage.
I never seen anything like it, man. and I'm
because I'd be at the golf course personally, but
I'm anxious to talk to Brent Brown about when is too much. When is it too much?
Yeah,
because you can sit there and take 100 swings, but if you're making the same mistake, creating a bad habit, what good is it? Mm-hmm. So I don't know what that cutoff. And I'm sure every player has their own cutoff, but I wonder sometimes is there too much cage work? Yeah, I'd rather have a guy taking maybe a few dozen more extra ground balls or maybe a few more fly balls.
Hey, mark your calendars for the night of Thursday, February 27th for the Sports Hub STL kickoff party. The event will take place at the new Hot Shots on Lindbergh in Lime. Come out and meet the Sports Hub STL team and enjoy great food and drink specials. The party will start at 6 o'clock as the Blues drop the puck on the road against the Washington Capitals. We will watch the game together, have great prize giveaways, and the Blues Hub postgame show will broadcast live on site immediately following the game. That's Thursday night, February 27th, starting at 6 p.m. at the new Hot Shots on Lindbergh in Lime. Hot Shots, St. Louis's home for all the games, all the time since 1990. Find yours at hotshotsnet.com.
I have a question while that sign is up.
Yeah, go put that sign back up. Yeah.
Are they coming?
I don't know. There's only if you see Claibs, there's only two of them.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure you didn't know that. They think there were 6 of them there. That's just 2 on repeat.
It's middle of the day. Nobody's drinking that early.
I can text Jay Boyd and I can ask him.
I'm just asking for a friend.
All right.
Not that I will be able to attend.
You will not be there.
You'll be down here.
You'll have games. I will text Jay Boyd and I will get the answer to that for tomorrow.
Just so we can let everybody else know.
Yeah. By the way, earlier today, Matthew Libator joined Randy Carricker and Brooke Grimsley on Sports Hub STL. He did say he's in the best shape of his life. So just
glad we got that cleared up.
He was the best guest they had on today, though. That's definitely the case.
Wait a minute, you're saying you're not in the best shape of your life?
I am not.
Oh, okay.
I have to cop to it. I'm not.
Yeah, I guess you're right there. He was the best guest they had on.
You can go find that on the Sports Hub STL YouTube page. Go back and watch all of the shows for all 2 days that we've been up and running here on Sports Hub.
Quite the catalog.
That's the best of. It's got to be just around the corner. That's what you'll hear on Christmas Day, folks.
The best of.
Yeah. We said we were going to cover. We didn't say how live we would be.
Like, why are they talking about Devers on Christmas? What happened?
Hey, did Newt or Donovan, do they qualify for leaving after the 5th inning, Claibs?
No. Well, it's certainly not Newt Bar.
I'd say Donovan can go do what he wants, but I mean, he's got a lot of different positions. He's got to play
that's
so,
true.
Yeah,
I mean, Donovan's going to play a lot,
yeah,
and I like to see Newt Bar play a lot, but I don't. Yeah, it's a great question, and maybe we ought to kind of take roll on. I'll tell you what we'll do tomorrow. We'll get the roster out.
Yeah.
And just go down the roster.
Service time.
You stay. You go.
It could be like the dugout informant.
Exactly,
here you go.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go.
You, not you. You. No, you can stay another inning and a half. I mean, we might have to go that route.
Make it to the 7th.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Brent,
multiple tiers. 5th inning, 7th inning, and the rest of you are going to be here till the bitter end.
Brenden, you were on the backfield today. What was going on out there for live BP?
I was watching Tekoa Roby pretty closely this afternoon. And you know who else was? Oliver Marmol and John Mozeliak were on that field as well. I think you had Michaelis and Palante on the other field.
He's the guy that he looks like Jackson Holiday, or he looks like he could be a Baltimore Oriole. He looks like he could be a Baltimore Oriole.
He's got
prospect.
the flow going as well. He's
a
guy that the Cardinals traded for him. He was in the Rangers organization. That was in the Montgomery trade, I believe, a couple deadlines ago. And they liked him, but he's had some injury issues. And this is a spring. I feel like he's coming in healthy. And so what does it look like as far as his role? And he's obviously got team brass looking at him. I feel like you're doing that because you say, what could it look like to have Tekoa Roby maybe play for a bullpen opportunity at some point this year? He's been a starter in the minors, but if a guy's got some durability concerns from his past, and he's healthy now, it's like maybe you don't want to waste these bullets. Let's see if this is a guy that could play and maybe his stuff plays up in shorter bursts. I don't know for sure how long of a look he'll get with that, but he did look good today facing guys like Mike Ciani, Jordan Walker. You look good out there as far as I saw. Well, you're laughing already. I mean, Mike does not want me to draw conclusions.
I know you have to go.
Guys.
You know what? It's all you have to go with. I certainly respect it.
Best live BP of his life. There you go.
Yeah. So I've always looked at this week with John Desai because of the fact that guys are just trying to get a feel for it. Just like you and I were talking about Jordan Walker, there was a couple of pitches he didn't swing at today.
Sure.
Take into account some of these hitters just want to see what it looks like coming out of somebody's hand.
Yeah.
And they may say, is that a strike or not? And they may disagree. But I'd rather for Jordan Walker to really be selective and not get himself out compared to just swinging just because it's a 2-strike count. And guys can get into that habit down here. The veterans, you'll see, they'll stand back and watch a few pitches just to see what it looks like. And maybe that's what he was doing. But this is the toughest this week. And the last week of spring training are the toughest weeks for me because A, I want to see some games.
Yeah.
And B, I can't wait to get out of here. Because the games don't mean, you're
Sure.
getting closer and you want some real finality to what you've been watching for the last 6 weeks. And is this guy, is he a player or not?
Right.
Or is he going to really be able to help you? And that's what I'm looking forward to also.
Here's what I'll say. The guys whose live BPs were more on the mediocre side, we don't talk about them.
Exactly.
I was going to talk about Tekoa Roby because he did look good.
See,
if he gets lit up, it's hey, that guy really he's coming into his own. Maybe he makes the bench because he homered off of somebody. So you got to learn how to play it. I'm learning as I go, Claibs.
By the way, one thing today, this kind of goes back to yesterday's show, and I see somebody asking about where JJ Weatherholt is going to start, whether it's in Springfield
St.
or
Louis,
where.
I thought.
But we sat here yesterday.
Jumping out of a truck.
We sat here yesterday. And we named the team. We named the opening or the 13 position players.
Took our shot at it.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at the list today of the infielders. I completely forgot that Jose Fermin's still a part of this team.
And he's been at shortstop when he's doing drills. They've never played him at shortstop in St. Louis, but he's obviously done it in the minors. That's part of that bench mix too, where you look at the JC. He's going to need to be a guy who plays. Fermin could be one of those bench guys if they trust him at short.
He's also a guy that he's been here for a few years now.
Hellman, and I think they do. Mose, like I said, true shortstop. That was a phrase that came out of Mo's mouth to me. I'm looking at that going, okay, they think he can play it twice a month when Mason needs a day. And that's really all that role needs to be. That role does not fit Sajacy for those who want Sajacy to be on this team.
I think that's
not going to work.
The organization, you would think, would want Sajacy in Memphis getting a start every single day.
That's my expectation.
Where maybe Jose Fermin, they're like, you know what? Hey, you could be
him and
the
Hellman.
13th guy. You guys can be on the bench.
Guy, you can do
to where, you look at the other guys that are out there. I think did Fermin he played outfield a little bit last year. I think they put him in the outfield last year.
They did a bit in Memphis. They won it because remember, they were needing a right-handed bat off the bench. That's when Walker came up for that spell. And everybody said, well, his reverse splits, why are they doing this? They didn't have another guy that they felt could fill that role, and they were still trying to go pedal to the metal to make the playoffs during that month. And it obviously didn't work out, and they changed it. But that was the idea behind Fermin. I think they started him a little bit late, though, to have him be able to ramp into that role.
I mean, we're putting glove on everybody's hand to play multiple positions. But in Fermin's case, you root for him because I don't know if there's a more accommodating. The guy's always have a smile on his face.
He's a happy
such
dude.
a positive person, and you always root for those guys. And if he makes it great, and I think you touched on it, Joe. You play a couple times a month, or like he's a getaway day guy.
Yeah,
he's going to play somewhere on Sunday and Thursday, whether it's a short, whether it's at second or wherever. He has that kind of versatility. You hope that his bat can catch up and where he's just not automatic four at bats, 4 outs. And now all of a sudden you're playing short. You go from 27 outs to 23 outs because, this guy's not going to be able to cash in. So, we'll see. It'll be a nice competition.
We welcome your thoughts as well on the comments and in the YouTube chat. Yes.
And the question was about Weatherholt. We should keep in mind he played at Palm Beach down here last year. If anything, probably start him in Peoria.
Yeah.
And then go from there. I'm not saying he can't do what Quinn did last year and rise up a couple of levels if he performs, but I don't even know that they would make him jump to Springfield. Now, he is a little older because he was a college player for multiple years. But
I think, I think he's a Springfield guy.
Could he be from day one, you think, this
I would
year?
think so.
Okay.
I mean, because as you mentioned his agent, as I said yesterday, I kind of think, high-end Division I is equivalent to AA in a lot of cases. And, you're the 7th pick of the draft.
Yeah.
So if he was like the 28th pick, I'd say, well, you want to kind of groom him a little bit. You're 7th pick in the draft, so that means they think you're closer to the big leagues than a lot of people are.
At 1.2 projected number 1. So that was going into his senior year.
And he had the hamstring.
So we have not heard anything about any hamstring issues.
No,
with Weatherholt since he
came back and played too. Yeah. I mean, he came back and played in college after that, so it should be something that's not even a concern. And I understand why people ask a lot about him because Cardinals don't often have guys drafted in the top 10. It's been a while, and obviously there will be another one this year.
I think you had to go back to J.D. Drew.
That's correct,
yeah.
and that has been a while.
And
J.D. Drew
so
was
for
one
some
of my
people, we
favorites.
probably don't even know who J.D. Drew was.
I took a picture with J.D. Drew once out there in O'Fallon when they had him come around the ballpark.
Derby, yeah.
It was a case where he was wearing a cast on that wrist in the photo when I was about 5 years old because he was often banged up. But I was a big J.D. Drew fan as a kid, and he left-handed hitting outfielder.
We used to call him Mickey Musial.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought he was somewhere between Musial and Mickey Mantle.
You know what, though? If you go back and look at his numbers, especially through a modern lens, he had some good numbers.
He had some good numbers. He had better numbers when he left here, though. And that was the thing. He was a good player. But, I give him credit. He said he'd had enough. He didn't stick around. He was like, I got it. I'm good.
Yeah.
See you later. Haven't heard from him since.
And that was, and he resulted in the Cardinals getting Adam Wainwright.
So that trade.
It worked out well for everybody.
Everybody got what they needed.
Most production he gave this organization.
Took me 2 episodes to fit J.D. Drew in. That's pretty good. That's
take a few more before we get back to him. The Chase Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to him and I was thinking about him, and he kind of reminds me of a smaller version of Brian Jordan. Now, I know you guys probably didn't see Brian Jordan.
I saw him.
Brian Jordan played in the NFL. Cardinals signed him. Had a really good career. They're built similar.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Jordan was a beast. He's a safety. He was a strong safety in the NFL, and Chase Davis could play strong safety in the NFL. I'm anxious to see what happens to him next because he, too, is a college guy. And I don't know if he's grown as fast as they wanted him to, but it kind of clicked for him in the second part of last year as far as his minor league tour was concerned. So I'm anxious to see how he ascends this year. I think he'll be a Springfield, a Memphis guy, but he too has to play every day.
And he got a little turn at Springfield last year too, just at the end, and did okay. So
multiple Chase Davis comments in the chat.
People love the prospects; they really do.
Plus, he's got a personality out of this world too.
Yeah,
this guy can light up a room with the best of them, and a lot of energy, comes to work. And like I said, if it doesn't work out in baseball, he can always play strong safety in the NFL. He's put together, man. There's no joke with him.
This one from Trav on the chat. So we talk about drama within other teams and other organizations. Again, over in Dundee, you have the
Dunedin.
Is that what it is?
I think they're in Fort Myers. Well, you're talking about Blue Jays. Dunedin. Yeah.
Vlad Jr. It was announced that they are nowhere close to a contract extension there. He has said he wants to stay a Blue Jay, but it looks like he is headed to free agency.
Let me stop.
Okay. I was going to get to a point, but if you want to stop me before I get there, that's fine. All right.
How many? Is that not an annual issue when players say we're going to cut off negotiations? I have news for you. It only takes one phone call. So it's a ploy that we all use. And I'm sure if they came to a number, put
your agent hat on for us and
tell
us what that looks like.
If I was an agent, I wouldn't say we're done negotiating. We're going to visit once a month about this to see if there's any progress. Can we determine length? Can we determine AAV? There's a lot of things that you can go into.
Yeah.
And that way you can kind of go back and forth. We'll pick a day. We'll go back. What do you got? Well, we were thinking about this, or that. Okay, let me chew on that a little bit, and I'll get back to you. You have 2 conversations, and then you say, all right, let's see if we have something moving forward, and we'll visit in a couple of weeks or in a month. Hey, they only do this to appease us, okay? A lot of, and it's one industry that we are more concerned about somebody's salary than we are anywhere else, because I don't need people knowing what I make. You don't want them. You don't want them. But we are so obsessed with, we got to get him signed. He's going to go to free agency. Oh my goodness, what are we going to do? You know what? There's plenty of time for this. And my question, and we've seen it so much, where we got to get this signed up, or else he got 2 more years. Well, in his case, in Guerrero's case, he can walk. But how many times have we seen teams jump the gun and sign a guy thinking, well, we're going to buy out his arbitration years? And then they look around at each other 2 years later, who thought this was a good idea? So again, not to cut you off, but I did. I'm sorry about that. But it's a ploy that we see. And again, I go back to this. If this wasn't the first week of spring training, where we had nothing else to talk about, it would be moving further and further back on the list of conversation.
I was just going to throw out there the hypothetical question of this is the reset year, and you have a new GM coming in next year. That'd be quite a splash for a reset to go out there and sign Vlad Jr.
How much money does he want?
I don't know.
I think he saw that Soto deal, and I think he's going to.
He wants. Let's put it this way: double digits in years. You know what? I've only committed to one thing in double digits in my life, and I was married for 20 years, okay? I don't know if you can go there. And so the standard line is now general manager said, well, that'll be the other guy's problem because I won't be here for that.
Heim is in St. Louis.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You're going to hear that again. So you have to think about, first of all, the only person who was offered that kind of length was Albert, okay? And the money that it would cost for him. And now he's a Boris guy too, right?
Vladdy is a Boris guy.
You can forget that. That's not going to happen.
Like I said, he saw that Soto deal. And
can you blame him though?
No.
Now here's why I wouldn't invest in him, because I don't think he can stay in shape long.
He's already a first baseman. Like you talk about guys moving to first
base.
He's
DH,
already there.
Out. Yeah. and I just don't see that. That's not an investment I would make.
I hear you.
I know you won't splash, Joe, but we'll find another way to do that.
I'm all for it.
Oh, you want to sign Guerrero for what? 400 million?
You give me a list of free agents in 26, and I'll want to sign half of them.
Well, but here's the problem. Here's what happened.
Hold
on. No. Here's a concern. Are you even playing baseball in 26?
I thought it was 2 years. Are they talking
about the CBA is up after 26, right?
I don't know if it's after 26 but
I think it's 2 years. They have 2 this year, next year.
Yeah, it's after 26. So what I'm saying is, now here's where it gets interesting. What's that contract look like creativity-wise with regard to lockout?
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm going to go back to when they first had one, and I remember Dave Winfield was still getting paid.
Really?
There were some guys that were still getting paid because they never saw it coming in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
There was a handful of guys that still like, well, whatever. I'm still getting a check.
4 years ago, I don't remember how they worked that out. They ended up doing like a prorated version of something or other. It changed things.
So
for
it'll
guys.
be in the back of everyone's mind, but
yeah.
I think the number we're talking about, and some people obviously value Guerrero more than others, I just don't see that being a long-term investment for me and the Cardinals. Now, what is long-term? Is it 7 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 12 years? I don't know what that number looks like anymore. And how is it structured? How much is deferred? I mean, there's so many things that go into a negotiation other than just saying, let's give them $45 million and move on. You have to take in a lot of other things.
Hey, make sure that you have signed up for the Sports Hub STL newsletter. You'll get all of the latest content from the Hub sent to your inbox twice a week, plus anytime sports news breaks. You'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and new merchandise as well. And while you're on the site, take a look around at all of the St. Louis sports content, including recaps of daily programming, sports news, opinions, and more, including all kinds of articles from Brenden Schaeffer. Plus, if you like a little action on the games, Eric Sontag will have pregame betting analysis for every team that we cover on Sports Hub STL. Eric also hosts Domesticated Gamblers, which airs live here on our YouTube page on Fridays at noon. And of course, all of our programming is available on demand as soon as we are finished with the live shows. Check it out all on the website at sportshubstl.com. What are you? What kind of articles are you working on now?
Well, we just put out some Michael McGreevy stuff last night. These pictures that I'm not allowed to say that they look good, Claibs. I gotta be careful.
Here's what I would say.
Throwing free and easy.
And you know what? Here is one thing, though, I will say. Whether he's got a bat in his hand or not is, does a guy have good command? And this is a sinker baller. So I want to see, does he have that kind of movement, whether he's facing the hitter or if he's throwing a bullpen, because that's a field pitch. And if he has a good feel, then he can just throw darts all day long and guys will be topping it. So if you see a guy who's doing that's different than saying he really looks good because he's grunting and, hitters are befuddled. That's a whole different story. And I'm anxious to see him. And as I said to you guys before, I know some people think he's going to be a fifth guy in the rotation. Now, I'd move him up and just see just what he has. And I'm going to stay on there. Ali's going to call me crazy like he always does, but that's okay.
One of the guys those pitchers will be throwing to is Ivan Herrera, who you had a chance to sit down and talk to earlier today.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see. I think that's the one person I'm anxious to see. And we all think he can hit, and he's shown the ability to hit in the minors. But we were concerned about his catching and his defensive skills. And he told me that he spent some time at Drive Line and some other places and worked on some things and learned some things in catching that he didn't know before this year. And my internal question was, how could you get this far and not know those things? And when you look back, the Cardinals never really had a catching coordinator on the minor league level, because we relied on Yachty to show everybody how to catch when they got here.
Yeah.
And so now they do have one. But in his case, you could just hear the zeal about, man, I got a reset. I push a reset button.
The light goes on.
Yeah. And he's like a sponge now. And he talked about, calling a game was something that, and I think that's the hardest thing in baseball for a catcher to call a game. Now, some catchers are lucky enough to look to the dugout and they'll tell them what to call. But, I don't think you've earned your stripes as a catcher unless you can call one. And he talked about that. And he also talked about the fact that just the overall approach, and I think preparation, and we heard Ali talking about the transition that Wilson is making, not having to be behind the plate, which means he doesn't have to spend 5-6 hours of prep time to get ready for a team. So now all he has to do is figure out how I'm going to hit this guy. So I think in Ivan's case, he pushed that reset button as well and being able to embrace the whole aspect of catching defensively. His framing is something I know he was working on as well. He talked about that. So I think that's the one guy of all the people we talked about so far that I'm anxious to see. Now, the question is, how much will we see of him? Because Pages obviously is a little bit ahead of him on defense. Guys like throwing to him. But at some point, you're going to have to throw him in there.
Yeah, because I think the DH opportunities are going to be a little bit more limited with Nolan still here. Now, against lefties, I think as long as they're willing to kind of put both catchers in the lineup at the same time, I don't think you need a third guy on the bench because you have
a third. I mean, you
have the best emergency catcher
right.
in MLB history. So as long as, and that wouldn't be something where, I don't think they want Wilson to catch, but if you had both catchers in the lineup on a given day, let's say disaster comes, they both get hurt that day. Willie can catch an inning to get you through, and then you make a transaction tomorrow. That's the kind of thing that I think they'll be able to do. Yeah. We'll see what the willingness is. Agree. But defensively, I do think it's important that he makes those strides to get the opportunities behind the plate as well. And it was something where, the throwing arm we talk about, because Cardinals struggled to throw out base stealers last year. I still kind of think Claibs, and I'm curious for your thought, more on the pitchers, maybe a little bit more, and something they need to address as a team.
No.
But it was a deficiency of Herrera, and Ollie was okay talking about that. That's the area that I think the team is looking most. They think he's improving as a framer. He's improving in his prep. Can he throw out base runners is maybe going to be the last
But he
step.
needs help with that, and I agree with you. And, we see pitchers now, they just come to the stretch, and they just go to play. Hey, by the way, there's a guy over at first base, and he's got
Don't forget about him.
12-foot lead already.
Yeah.
That's something that I think has to be discussed as well. And remember, we have the clock going. So, if you're a base runner, you can milk this cow down to the point where the guy has to,
Right.
he's got to make a decision, and he can't be split on it, on whether I'm coming to the plate or whether I'm going to turn around and throw to first. That guy's got to be committed to one thing, because once you don't have conviction in one or the other, I guarantee it's not going to end well for you. So that's got to be a team effort with regard to helping him throw runners out.
And Claibs, tonight, they were talking about it earlier today. You're going out to dinner with a few of the guys.
I don't even know how that
tonight.
came. I don't even know how that came out.
It did come out, though.
I know. Yeah. And you know what? I've been doing this for 30-something years, okay, with different people.
The players are excited about it. They look forward to it.
Yeah, but I mean,
he said,
"Let me make it seem like this is something that just happened."
Right.
And
we got nothing to talk about.
It's nothing.
That's true. You're right. I mean, I think Ozzie and I, we were laughing about this yesterday. I think we've done like 30-something of these over the years, because there was a time when he wasn't here in spring training. And, and when it was presented to me, I'm like, where have you been? I mean, it's not like we publicize it. Hey, everybody, we're going to dinner. People go to dinner here all the time.
You're going to eat, right?
I mean, that's the thing where I attribute it to youth, I guess. But, Joe and I were out last night, and we ran into
Keith
Hernandez and Michael Ciani. There's different places we've come to go to that you're going to run into people, but people make it seem like this is some like banquet or something. It's just going to dinner, catching up, just talking. Jeez.
Come on, Joe.
It's
nice going, by the way.
Yeah. Stop with me. I didn't bring this up. I'm not the one that brought this up.
I think today.
I did here, yes, but it was talked about on the patio at length today.
Well, now it's on YouTube.
And yesterday. It's out there on
I
the
guess
hub
I should
now.
tell everybody where we're going. Huh?
I mean, I was going to hold off on that. I was
nothing's sacred anymore.
For shame.
That's gonna wrap it up.
You sure?
I think so.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything.
That's gonna wrap it up on day 2 of Cards.
Tomorrow we'll tell you how dinner went.
365. Everybody's order. I want you to get out your notes app and keep track of all that.
No chance in hell. It's not gonna happen. I might not even go now.
Yeah, just to spite you.
It has nothing to do
right
with me. It
here.
doesn't spite me at all. He is Mike Claiborne,
Going to dinner.
Cardinal Insider, Brenden Schaeffer.
I might
I'm
eat
Joe
too tonight.
Roderick.
Who knows?
Hey, if you missed any of the show today or any of the Randy Carricker show featuring Brooke Grimsley from earlier this morning, you can check it all out on the Sports Hub STL YouTube page or online at sportshubstl.com. We will talk to you tomorrow. So long, everybody.